Back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. We're talking with Walter Searcy. He's Transportation Board Authority member, Transportation Authority Board member, and he's also here talking on behalf, in a lot of ways, of the mayor, promoting the new transportation plan. Also with us this morning is Felix Castrodad with MTA. Thank you both, gentlemen, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And I want to remind you, by the way, we're opening up the phone lines. We had a problem a moment ago. There were some technical issues. If you were trying to get through, you couldn't. That's been corrected. So if you want to join and ask a question of our guests about this transportation plan, call in now. You see the number on the screen. And we got some calls coming in. But before we get to that, we're in stage one of a two-stage plan at this point. So, yeah, it's been unveiled. Doesn't mean it's a done deal by any means. No, I mean, you still have to convince the council to put it on the ballot, and then you have to convince the voters to say, yes, we want this, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly the process.
All right, and that's what part of what this is about, to answer the questions. So what do you think in terms of the council and the voters? Where do you think you stand right now? Earlier you said you think much of the reaction so far has been positive, but you know the devil can be in the details as they look this over. What do you think right now?
The mayor's announcement is barely a week old now.
Yeah.
And we should anticipate, we're anticipating that we're going to hear more now of the clatter of the naysayers, because persons who are for this are for it, you know, and they've already made the determination. So we will put on our sniping prevention gear and try to answer the real and still lasting legitimate questions that people have. And at every opportunity we get, we try to appear and offer the community the information and real factual basis for the commentaries and their concerns. And they'll also, in addition to that, let's say that on May 1, we get an affirmative vote and we go forward. There's still, and I'm certain Felix will be able to tell us, there's still going to be refinements to the process and targeting of specific places, placements for platforms and drop-off points and depots and all kinds of things that the community will want. I was at the out at the Nations Festival this past Saturday on 51st. The only negative comments that I heard were, why can't we extend this thing to White Bridge Road? You know, why are we stopping it along Charlotte short of that? And you know, the reality is that this is not infrastructure that can't be expanded upon at some point in the future. This is what we're building now. This is what we have the capacity to build now. This is what we dare ask the voters to support at this point. We're not talking about a $10 billion program. We're talking about a $5 billion program. And so that's where we are. And it's dynamic. It's not static. And the community will have at each juncture along the way an opportunity to critique it and point us in a better way if possible.
Yeah, you can modify it, and that makes perfect sense. Let's take a call from Jimmy. Jimmy, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Jimmy. What's on your mind?
I was wondering about the payment on this. Everything y'all have got is us taxpayers paying for it. The only one that really going to make money on this is the corporations and the people living downtown. They're the only ones that want it. That 80% approval rate, you can tell he's a politician. So you know that's a lot. But I want to know why corporations aren't paying their fair share. They should pay for all of it. We give them tax breaks. We kiss their butt. And y'all won't do nothing for anybody, but the people have to pay, not the corporations.
All right, let's see. Well, in terms of
Good for Jimmy.
You're going to pay for it. Yeah, listen, there's people out there, they're going to see things like this, and you want to. All right, so just for Jimmy, and I don't know how closely he's followed it. All right. The way it's going to be paid for, right? 0.5% sales tax surcharge beginning July of 2018. That's something we're all going to pay, okay? It's a 0.5% sales tax surcharge. 1/4% surcharge on hotel motel tax. If you live here, now, have you been to other cities where they have that? And it's going to put us near the top of the list. You get a quote on a room before the taxes. Heck, I've been in cities like, I think Atlanta and Chicago, the tax is almost as much as the room is. Sure. But you know what? That's visitors are going to pay for that. 20% surcharge on rental car tax. Again, visitors paying for that. And a 20% surcharge on the business and excise tax. Is that some of the businesses taking some of the toll that he's talking about?
Absolutely.
So
that's something that Jimmy should recognize.
Okay.
That the businesses will be paying their fair share. They already are making a contribution to the tax base. This will be a surcharge on top of the taxes that they already pay. In other words, if you pay $1,000 a year in a business tax, the 20% surcharge will add another $200 to that, so you'll be paying $1,200 instead of $1,000.
Okay, so for someone like Jimmy, okay, what he'll be paying more, at least based on this breakdown, is that 0.5% sales tax surcharge.
What he consumes.
That's what kind of hits him, and then possibly he could make the argument some of these businesses paying more might increase the cost of a little something that he would have to pay to purchase from one of these businesses. But that's basically it. So,
and if you listen to the mayor's announcement the other day, she mentioned that 47% of that is that sales tax is coming from people outside of Davidson County.
Exactly.
So, even when you look at that from that perspective, it's not like the full impact on the residents necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so others, if you have questions about the costs, like Jimmy, and that's a fair question, Jimmy, give us a call so we can sift through it, but I hope that kind of helped answer that. Did you get a chance to talk to the former mayors? They were all out there at that.
Yeah, that was great.
Because, it's funny, as I watched that, and I agree with you, Walter, I mean, Bredesen, Purcell, Dean, and I think they're all good men, and they did a good job for the city. But I looked at all three of them and saying, any one of you three should have started this back when you were mayor. Sure. Okay, and maybe it wasn't politically or financially, but all three of them should have started it.
And each one of them would concede that.
Okay.
But you have to get to a locus of points where,
I know, yeah.
Where
time's right now.
Yeah, the time is right now.
I think all of the previous mayors made their significant effort in trying to improve transit and helping MTA with their budget or helping the neighborhoods, and so I think those were little steps that have put us in a better position to get to this point. The reality is that when you look at cities like Nashville that have more robust transit systems, a lot of them have a dedicated funding source for transit. We don't. We have to go to the Metro Council every year and put our budget request, and hopefully they will fund it. But it makes it difficult to try to plan long term and get to the things that you want to accomplish that way. I think the Improve Act gives the local jurisdictions that capacity to levy, have a surcharge on the existing funding taxing mechanisms to help and do that. And that's what Mayor Barry is doing with this. She's taking full advantage of this opportunity, and she's spreading it the best way possible to try to make it, distribute that burden between everybody.
If something like this goes in, the way it's, looking at the map here and how it plays out, how do you envision it now being utilized by the people that live here? I know that sounds like a silly question, but what I mean is, living in the city, and there's East National and some of the out there. In the city itself, I mean, unless you're a millionaire, I'm sorry, you're not living in the Gulch, okay? It's just all there is to it, all right? So, but of course, if you're in the Gulch, you can walk just about everywhere. But it's like, how do you envision it being utilized? Or park and rides sometimes? Folks from neighborhoods being able to catch a bus that then hooks them up with because really the key, why I love light rail, and MTA and buses I know have a great point, but they're susceptible to traffic flow. I want the individual dedicated line that has nothing to do with traffic so I can count on it. That's the biggest thing about transportation. It's public. I need to be reliable.
You just hit the jackpot. What was it, Groucho Marx, the jackpot word of the day?
What? Reliability.
Reliability.
Yeah.
And you can get more reliability even in your buses. Certainly you can in your light rail system. But even the buses must be more reliable.
Is that, you do that with dedicated lanes? Or how do you do that?
Do it with a series of things depending upon the route that you're on. You know, rapid bus rapid transit is another term for it. Expresses itself in many different ways depending upon which route you're on. You can enhance the traffic light sequences so that when a bus is picking up passengers and the light is about to turn back red, the bus can keep it from turning red and remain green so that it continues on along its route and can maintain decent time. If you can have reliability in the system, it's on time, and its frequency is as you desire, bus or rail is going to encourage people to use that system.
There's several things that you can do. I mean, what Walter mentioned, that, you know, transit signal priority for transit is going to be key. And there's things, you know, you can have dedicated lanes, even if they're not dedicated the full length of the day. Maybe you can make it dedicated during peak times to allow the buses better flow during those times. You can have things like, it's called queue jump, which is a special signal where the bus can go on the side of the cars to the front of the queue, gets a special signal that allows the bus to bypass the traffic, get in front of the line, and continue. And then, you know, the lights change for everybody else, and the system regulates throughout the cycles. And you know, you can, for rapid bus, for example, you can put level boarding where people can, you know, walk straight onto the bus, so they don't have to like go up or the bus have to deploy. You can pay your fare outside before you get in the bus, which is some of the things that sometimes bogs down the people waiting for. So you go in and out fairly. So a lot of those things have been contemplated as part of this
Just
plan.
pay your fare on your phone now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a key one. Yeah.
All right, take a break on that note. When we come back, more calls, Brian and others. Stay where you are. More of our conversation with our guests about, you know, where Nashville's going with the transportation plan. And yeah, the wheels are moving. Let's move Nashville. We'll be back right after this.